might think that the Cajuns are just a bunch of fun-loving, good-timing people that love to eat, love to dance, but there's more to it than that. They came a long way and endured incredible hardships trying to find a place to call their own. And in the process, they formed their own rich heritage. Today, Dottie Visosky, our resident Cajun, will share this journey with us through the use of a Cajun PowerPoint presentation. Covering the period from 1555 to December 26, 2010. Dottie Visosky, let's say the bon temps roulette.
Lancez les bon temps roulés.
But it wasn't always that way. Dottie Visosky.
This is a map of the world. This is a map of the Cajun world. As Trent mentioned, the Cajuns are well known for good timing, let the good times roll, dancing, singing, eating. But I want to make it crystal clear to you, this isn't the way it always was. Now the way it started to begin, back in 1555, in the north of France. And that's a long and winding road from the north of France to the south of Louisiana. But I'm going to take you on this trip with me. First of all, it started to begin when a bunch of simple people that were farmers were living in the country in France. And some of the neighbors didn't like the way they worshipped. They didn't like the fact that they were simple, ignorant farmers. They were stupid men, like a bunch of stupid people. That's what they thought about them. And they fought and they fought. And this went on for about 55 years. When it got to be 1604, they said, that's enough, we had enough. We're going to go to the new world, we're going to get ourselves a new beginning. So, they pack up a few clothes. And some food. And they got on a boat. And they went to the new world. They come all the way across from France. This is my PowerPoint. They come all the way from France, all the way 4,000 miles across that Atlantic Ocean to Nova Scotia. But at that time it was called Port Royal. Well, when they landed at Port Royal, all they had was a few farming tools and some cooking tools. And this was the colony that was set up by the King of France. So they got them a little bit of land, and they built the homes, and they started some farming. And about 16 years later, here come the British over there. Now, this was settled about 16 years before the British came to Plymouth Rock. Well, they were all over the place, and the British, again, they didn't like the French. So they run them out of there. They run them into the wilderness where there were some Indians there, and the Indians taught them how to hunt and fish. So this went on for a little while, and the King of France died. So England took over. So they run them out of there again. And then when England didn't want them anymore, they get back to France. And this went back and forth for 2 or 3 times for years. Then it got to be 1713. They shipped them down to some of the British colonies. And they didn't let them practice their religion. They was Catholics, and the British was not Catholics. And they fought the Catholics and the Protestants, just like they still fight today in Ireland. They fought and they fought. Well, this went on till about 1755. Then it really hit. The most horrific things you could imagine happened to these people. You've heard stories of people put into slavery. Well, that's what happened to them. They took the people away from their homes. They burned their crops. They raped. They tortured. They imprisoned people. And this went on. And they put them on ships and they sent them off out into the Atlantic Ocean again. And some of them starved to death. Some of them died with disease. Some of them were shipwrecked. A fourth of them didn't make it is not developed here, you folks can have it. Well, that was fine until they got there. Then the rich folks in New Orleans, they didn't want no part of them. So they sent them out again. Then they found their way to the swamps of Louisiana. The king said, I got some swampland you can have. Well, they got to the swampland, and when they saw the sun come down on that bayou, on that crystal clear water, they knew they found it, and they found it at last. There was all kind of new game to kill and fish and everything they needed. And so there they built their home. And they danced and they sang again and they cooked and they just celebrated, learned to celebrate life again. And this went on. And that's how they got their reputation. And I was in Louisiana for Christmas. And I had myself a good time, yeah. But the day after Christmas, I got up on Sunday morning, and I'm going to tell you what I found. It was the night after Christmas, and all through the swamp. Now the creature was stirring. They was all still drunk. Papa lay face down on the floor. He ate so much he couldn't eat no more. And Mama, she had on a sexy new gown. But it was wasted on Papa because he was face down. You should have tasted some of that food my mama cooked, but that recipe you never go find in no book. Now the dogs was licking the plates on the table. Nobody cleaned up because they still wasn't able. Sister took off in the family pirogue to see her lover. Hope Papa don't know. When she came back, I had me some new jeans. You think blackmailing's really that mean? Well, Brother and Boudreaux went off into town to look for some women before the sun went down. They must have had some fun, because 3 days later they come home riding on a big old alligator. Now Papa, we found up in that old cypress tree, he said he didn't remember where he left his teeth. Granny, she sat with a smile on her face, saying a prayer and singing Amazing Grace. And the creatures that live in the swamp thank the Lord that they wasn't served for lunch. The end.